everyone! So this video is going to be a little different, a little less about gardening, but it's still something I am looking forward to sharing. So the new year, I feel like, is always a time when we set new goals for ourselves. Now, I've already shared my 2024 garden resolutions. So what I want to share now is just some things that I've started doing over the last few years that have really made a positive impact in my life. And they're relatively either easy things, free or low cost things, that the impact has been much larger than I ever expected. That way, if you're just kind of thinking of something to add to your list this year to try out, these are some things that I definitely recommend. So this is gonna be a much more like casual, chatty video. I have this tea here that I got, I think they're called like flower bomb teas. I got a few from my aunt for Christmas. They are circular spheres when you drop them in, and then as they sit in water, they expand. So I think that's really cool. It's still a little hot for me to drink right now, but I'll be sipping on that throughout the video. So a little bit of history. I feel like for most part, or maybe, I mean, as a kid, I was probably pretty carefree, but most of my life as an adult, I definitely have been more of a glass half empty versus glass half full kind of person. And in the last few years, that has really flip-flopped. And people in my life have seen a difference where I just seem more calm. I notice a difference when hard times happen to me, being able to rebound from them a lot faster. Unfortunately, I have lost a good amount of family members in like the last 7 to 8 years. And I can tell how I dealt with those difficult situations kind of before I started incorporating some of these things into my life, and how much better I'm able to handle those situations afterwards. So we'll go ahead and start with the list that I have. Number one, I'm not going to spend too much time on because I think for the most part, everyone here knows it, and that's gardening. So gardening for me has really been life-changing. I never expected the mental benefits, well, both physical and mental benefits that I experienced from gardening. I mean, physically, I have to carry everything up 2 flights of stairs and carry it back down. So I always notice in the spring when I start to carry stuff up again, that I'm like, oh, this is harder than it was last year. And just being outside and working, there are definitely some physical benefits, but the peace of mind has been incredible. I'm much more relaxed when I spend time outside. It forces me to get outside because I work from home. So it's very easy to have the day go by and realize I haven't gone outside today. But when I have my garden, I'm outside in the morning, almost every morning, I think. I'm outside in the evening, and it has just been a complete like change for me mentally in a positive way. So if you don't have a garden, I recommend at least growing something outside. If you don't have an outdoor space, which again in this city, it's not guaranteed that you have an outdoor space, get a couple houseplants. Even taking care of plants inside. I mean, this is what really gets me through the winter. And yes, my tree is still up, don't judge me. That'll come down at some point. But having something in here that I still take care of, that brings nature from outside inside, has also definitely benefited me. So get one plant, whether it's inside or outside, and I pretty much guarantee you will feel better by having it. Now let's move away from the garden and plant related things and on to the rest of the list. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about, I think, is the one I've been doing the longest, and I would not have thought I would be a person who did this, but that is meditation. So I got a CD. That's how long ago I first got a meditation CD that came with a meditation pillow, that I still have the pillow, and I put the CD in. I sat with my eyes closed for maybe 30 seconds at the most. It was like, I can't do this. This is too hard. And then years went by, and I read a book. Let me see if I can find the name of the book. It's called 10% Happier by Dan Harris, and it talked a lot about the benefits of meditation. So I was like, all right, we'll try it. So I got the Headspace app, which is what I still use. I must have gotten that in 2018. And again, it wasn't something that I expected to see a huge change from, but basically everything else in my life at that time had been pretty consistent. I had clients that I worked with that were stressful, and from when I started the meditation, I realized that I was feeling less stress, or not even necessarily no, I definitely was feeling less stressed about it, but I was able to recognize the stress, kind of separate myself from it and work through it better than I had been in the past. So it really does help to calm my mind, focus my attention on my mind, which I feel like throughout the day, my thoughts can just race by so quickly. and also separating that you are not necessarily your thoughts. So there's been a lot, I feel like, that I have learned from meditation over the last, I guess, 5, almost 6 years now. So I use the Headspace app. I think it's $60 a year, $70 a year. For me, totally worth it. But if you don't want to spend any money, YouTube is a fantastic resource. There are so many meditation videos out there. You can type in, I don't know, let's say you're going through the loss of a loved one. You can type in meditation for loss of a loved one and something will come up. So YouTube has plenty of videos that you can meditate to for free. Why I like Headspace, and I'm sure there's other apps that are similar, is because I can just open the app and it tells me what I'm doing that day. Whereas if I'm just using YouTube, I would have to spend the extra time like finding a video that I liked for that day, figuring out what I wanted to do. But in the app, it's all laid out there for me. And the fewer steps it takes for me to do something, the more likely it is that I will do it. So even if you think that meditation won't work for you, that's exactly what I thought. And it turns out that it does. Now, it doesn't, erase every anxious thought or stressful time in your life, but it definitely has made me able to work through those times a lot better. Next up is something that is free to do, and that is walking. I love walking. I didn't always love walking. When I lived in Indiana, I drove everywhere except for the few years that I was on campus. And then even when I moved to the city, like I would walk to and from where I needed to go, but I wasn't really like walking just to walk. And I would say maybe again in 2018, maybe before that, 2017, I just started going for walks around the neighborhood. And I don't listen to music. I don't do anything else. I'm just kind of walking with my thoughts, getting outside. I remember when I first started, like 20 minutes seemed like a long time. I think now I can go for like 45 to an hour on a normal basis. And it helps in a lot of ways. Now, obviously, you're getting physical exercise, which is great. But I notice a big shift going from like the warmer seasons into the colder seasons when I'm not outside walking as much. And it's not only the physical part of it, but like the mental part of it as well. If I am ever feeling stressed or overwhelmed, the immediate thing I do if I can is go for a walk. Again, a benefit of working from home is that unless I'm on a specific meeting, I can kind of come in and out as I need to. So if there's something stressful that I'm working on, I can go for a walk, come back, and I feel a lot better. So don't underestimate the power of walks. Luckily, my husband also loves walking. So anytime we travel somewhere, we walk around, we find specific places to hike. I mostly walk in the city, but when we can get away into nature for the weekend, that's also great to walk around surrounded by trees and kind of forget that you are living in a giant city. But walk anywhere that you can, even if it's just around the block. And those walks were really also the catalyst for me focusing more on my physical health. I actually remember, so I got a Fitbit 2016, I don't know. And that's when I realized how little I was moving my body. And so I didn't jump right into like heavy, intense exercises. I just started walking. And then as I obviously, built up my physical strength, and I started doing more physical activity, and now I feel like I'm in a really good routine. And that was something that walking really started for me. So take a walk around, even if it's again just around your block for a couple minutes. I think I even read that like 10 minutes is enough to like boost your mood. So get outside and walk when you can. When people ask me what my hobbies are, I always feel weird saying walking, but not weird enough to not continue to do it and tell people about it. Next up is yoga. This is also something I don't think I ever really saw myself doing. I'd taken some classes like in my early 20s, but then stopped doing it for a long time. And my job is sitting at my desk, working at a computer. So I noticed that I was getting pain like in my upper back. It always felt tight. So I started doing yoga. I don't know how I found Yoga with Adriene is the channel that I started with. And then she also does January 30-day challenges, which are great. And they're not super intense. I think most of the videos are around like 20 to 30 minutes, and it's all free. So you can obviously go and take classes at a yoga studio. For me, I like the free factor, but also it's a lot easier if I'm just gonna pop on the YouTube video to do it in my own home, at my own time. I usually do it in the morning because I'm the kind of person where if I don't do that stuff in the morning, the day kind of gets away from me, and then, new things come up that you have to do, and I never get to it at the end of the day. So things like meditation and yoga, I will do in the morning, but I love it. So I've definitely noticed less pain in my upper back. I've noticed more flexibility. Again, the deep breathing that you do during yoga helps. It helps keep me in physical shape, which is great. So I really love it. I think stretching is something I don't do enough in general. So it's good to have the yoga videos. So what I like to do is I'll do the 30-day challenge in January, and then I'll just repeat it throughout the rest of the year. I don't do it every day. I wish I could do yoga every day, but it doesn't always fit in with my schedule. But I try to do it at least 3 to 4 times a week. I'll also, like, let's say I do the 30-day challenge and then I find videos that I like specifically from that, I'll just repeat those. So Yoga with Adriene, I think, is the most popular YouTube channel. I also really like Heart Alchemy Yoga, which is another channel, and those videos are a little bit more intense and a little bit more fast-paced. But I, again, can't believe the improvements that I've seen in like balance and calmness and lack of pain in my back. So if you are looking to start doing some yoga, I would highly recommend the Yoga with Adriene YouTube channel, especially the 30-day challenge to kind of get you into it. Next is an online course that is free called The Science of Wellbeing. This I did in spring 2020 when there was all of a sudden a lot of time available to us. But what it is, it's on Coursera, which I love taking online courses. I don't think everything on Coursera is free, but this class was. And I'd heard about it at the beginning of 2020, a lot of people talking about it and how it was something great to do and really helped to like change your mindset. So I decided to try it. It took a few weeks to get through. Not that there were like, I mean, there were some assignments to work on, but it wasn't like a class where you turn in assignments just to work on your own. But it was really eye-opening for me. I think that was kind of when I first started to shift into really focusing on what I have and becoming happier with everything that I appreciate in my life now, versus kind of living a life comparing it to others. So I really enjoyed that class. It's by Laurie Santos, who is a Yale professor. And she also has a podcast that I listen to on and off. I don't know if there's new episodes of the podcast, but I'll link that down below too. But I'd highly recommend that if you have the time, taking the Science of Wellbeing class. Again, it's free. And I definitely learned a lot about changing my mindset to benefit me. Next up is this journal. So this is called the 5-minute journal. And every day what you do, I just got this year, is you open it up, you'll write the date. It has a quote or an activity. So this one, it says, life has no limitations except the ones you make. You fill it out every morning and evening. So in the morning you write 3 things that you're grateful for, 3 things that you want to do to make today great, and then 1 daily affirmation. And then at night you come back and you write 3 highlights of the day and something that you learned today. And I really love this. So I used to have it as an app, not like the 5-minute journal. I think it was just called like 3 good things. And you write 3 good things that happened. I like writing, like handwriting, more than using an app. I don't know if it's because I was born in the 80s, so I remember a life without the internet and apps. So for me, I really like the practice of writing this every morning and every evening. It's the first thing I do when I wake up. It's the last thing I do before I fall asleep. And again, it just focuses you on what went well that day. I've used other apps where it's like write 3 things that went well and 3 things that didn't. I prefer, like, I can reflect on things that didn't go well, but I prefer to have a book filled with what did go well versus also reflecting on what didn't. So I really like writing this down. And I've noticed over time, the things I'm grateful for become not, I don't know if smaller is the right word, but it's not like, oh, I'm grateful for this new thing that I bought, but it's like, I'm grateful for my cat. I'm grateful for my husband. I'm grateful that the sun is shining today. It's the things that are kind of in our daily lives that add joy to it. And I've, again, noticed myself really focusing and getting more joy from those things than I probably would have in the past or just taken them for granted. So it really does focus your attention on what is it that I am actually grateful for. And sometimes it's honestly hard, especially if you're having, like a bad period. You're like, what am I grateful for? But you still try to find those 3 things, and it can help you in those times when you might only be thinking about the negative, to at least force yourself for a little bit of time to think about the positive. So whether you get a journal like this, again, the 5-minute journal, or you get an app, I think the app I used was free. There's some that are paid, but I prefer to use a free app if I'm just gonna write a few things in it every day. but there are resources out there. And again, I've found that this has been a huge shift for me mentally as well. I just realized I haven't sipped my tea yet, and it doesn't seem to be as steamy. It's good. I think this one was Lily and some sort of green tea. Yeah, but it's good and pretty. I like that. Again, finding joy from simple things. Next on my list is doing things that I loved to do as a child. And I think this is something that I've heard talked about more in recent years, but for a long time I stopped doing the things that I like to do as a child because it felt like, well, you shouldn't do that as an adult, or that's a waste of time if you do it as an adult. So things like, well, honestly, like walking through the woods, picking flowers, drawing, coloring. I loved doing all those things when I was little, and I found myself getting away from that. In fact, I don't know if I did any of that like in my 20s. And now I'm starting to do those things again and really connect with them. So if there's something that you really like doing as a child, I would try to do it now. So I really liked drawing. I've signed up for a botanical drawing class through the Chicago Botanic Garden. You don't have to sign up for a class if you don't want to, but resources like local botanic gardens, Coursera, what's the other? Udemy is another website where I take classes from. And you can find relatively cheap options on Udemy and Coursera. So sign up for a class on something that you really used to love to do. And now obviously it helps if you have the time available to do it. So even if you don't have the time, maybe just take like 5 minutes out of the day and draw or color. And I know it might seem like, or even read. I loved to read and I kind of got away from that. It's something I hope to do more this year, but it can be hard to find the time to do those things because it always seems like, well, there's something more important I should be doing. But even just carving out a few minutes, it's definitely improved my life overall. And I love that I'm now doing those things again as an adult and kind of just coming full circle. And the last thing, which might seem odd because a lot of what I do with gardening is on my phone, is being on my phone less of the time. So I would either like doom scroll through Instagram, or I would spend time like on Reddit when I could be doing other things that would actually enhance my life. So I went through and deleted a bunch of apps off of my phone that I wasn't using. I consciously make an effort now to not be on my phone as often. Now I do need it for, obviously I share a lot of what I'm doing on Instagram. I want to make sure I'm still interacting with other people there as well. But just narrowing down my focus on what I use my phone for and putting my phone away and doing something that doesn't require a screen has been great. So, you know, going back to my last thing about finding time to sit down and draw, I would think I don't have enough time, but then I realize how much time I'm wasting on my phone. And by taking some time away from that and putting it towards the things that actually bring me joy has been great. Also, I feel like, especially with the internet, we get caught up into I should know everything that's going on at all times, and that can be very overwhelming. So I've also limited what I follow on Instagram too. I also used to get like daily notifications of like local news. I've kind of cut down on that too, where it's like I will set aside a time where I can go seek out and like read the local newspaper, and then that's it. Instead of being like following the Instagram, constantly being sent updates, I just have a little period of time that I focus on that, and then I can focus on other things. And you don't have to know everything that's going on at all times because that can be very, very overwhelming. So I'm trying to think, I think there was a book, it was an audio book I read. Let me see if I can find the title. It was called How to Break Up with Your Phone by Catherine Price. So it's a physical book too, but I got the audiobook version and listened to that. And I think that kind of helped me like start the process because it is really hard. I mean, when I find that there's any sort of free time, it's like I would automatically grab my phone and start scrolling. So it's been hard to break that habit. But again, kind of remembering time before phones like this existed, it's nice to kind of get back to that a little bit. So that is my list of the things that I've done over the last few years where I've really seen an improvement in my life. And so if there is something that you're looking to add this year, try one of these out. If you don't already garden, definitely garden, go for walks. It's the small things that I feel like I've incorporated in my life that make the largest difference. So I hope you found this video helpful. I know it's a bit different than usual. If there's anything that you found that you've done that has made a huge improvement on your life, list that down below and we can all share and learn from each other. So that's going to be everything for this video. I will see you in the next one.